Hello, it's Gayle Palmer here, the osteopath at the Living Elements Clinic. Today I wanted to talk to you about retained primitive reflexes. I know, it's quite a big words, aren't they? Let me explain a bit more. Retained means they are still operating in the body as opposed to have been superseded. Primitive, these are our early reflexes that we are born with or develop and change and adapt as we go through our early initial developmental stages. Reflexes, they occur subconsciously, operate actively, consciously, but we don't necessarily have a lot of control over them. They take priority. So retained primitive reflexes are a really important subject and cause a really wide range of issues in children, but also adults too, if they have been retained and they have not been superseded by other developmental stages, which is surprisingly common. When you know what to look for, you start to see primitive reflexes being exhibited in many people. So some of the symptoms that babies can get when they have retained reflexes include feeding difficulties, swallowing difficulties, gait, walking, sitting, crawling issues where the coordination doesn't quite match up, or they do something a bit strange which doesn't look like it's very normal. They can lead to behavioural issues, emotional outbursts. Anger is probably the most typical. They can lead to bedwetting or anuresis. They can lead to frustration for the child. They can lead to coordination issues, foot-eye coordination, foot-hand coordination issues, between the feet issues. They can lead to gross motor problems, so wobbling, like for instance being unable to walk down a line on the floor without falling over, or going into a kind of a shock reaction with their hands. They can lead to fine motor issues, which leads to problems with writing, and sometimes understanding the difference between the writing and the language in your head and your language centres, perhaps to the use when you use speech as well. So there can be a real mismatch and chaoticness to the symptoms that are exhibited if children have retained primitive reflexes. Now, for most children, they are able to adapt and adjust despite one or more of the primitive reflexes still operating. For some, though, they just can't. It becomes too much for their system, and then you get more of the frustration, the autistic tendencies, etc., and it becomes a much more of a thing, much more of a syndrome. They are often underdiagnosed or undiagnosed, and even if they are potentially diagnosed, the very vast majority of practitioners do not know how to treat them and resolve them. It is a whole specialised area of science. But for me, one of the most interesting things is that if those early primitive reflexes are not stopped from operating early enough in life, they go through into adulthood. And so you see, for instance, rooting reflexes. If you touch the cheek, for young babies, they will root. So they will turn their head to that stimulus and try and suck. Obviously, adults don't do that. They've learned that that's not socially acceptable. But if you catch them unawares, they will still do that turn. But it comes with the mouth posture to go with it as well. And so that's a good indication of a retained primitive reflex. It's an area that I have been fascinated in for a very long time. I don't see all that many children past childhood because I've treated them usually by that point. And so we've reassessed and inhibited the reflexes that we don't want and worked on the reflexes that we do want for developmental change. But particularly for older children, 5, 6 and beyond, working at this level makes a phenomenal difference to their possibilities in life and how they operate and what they can get out of life. So it's a really worthwhile area of investigation. If you think you or your children perhaps or grandchildren may have retained primitive reflexes, then get in touch with me at livingelements.co.uk or just get in touch with me on the book a free little 10-minute consultation with me. You can do that online. And let's have a brief chat and see if it might be worthwhile taking this further. That's Gayle Palmer at the Living Elements Clinic. I hope you have a great day. Take care for now. Bye-bye.